He pulled his own name. John and Charles.
Just a little bit of the crazy nonsense that does kind of happen to me during life, and as part of my little story tonight, I'm going to put this away. I'm the first person who gets to be over his nerves, and I hope I can actually keep you entertained for a moment without my magic, without my props. I think I can because I told a little piece of this story here once before at the tram, but as it was on my way to doing a little bit of numerology magic in which everything comes together and it shows how we're all connected in rather unique ways, it was very much a shortened version. It's the story about the very first time my father did invite me to go on his mythical spring walk through the 8 acres behind our house. And my father was a very proud man, very supremely intelligent, was one of my biggest supporters, and I would have to say one of my only real supporters within my family of my magic and what I did. He was a man who actually came from absolutely nothing, and because of his brilliant mind for math, he had this super illustrious career in the world of research and reliability, working in applied physics for the government. A world that I can never hope to comprehend or grasp, because my mind, if you don't know me, works in kind of the abstract. I see and feel things and understand things on a certain level that I can never, ever bring to light because I simply don't have the math capabilities. I can add, I can subtract, I can multiply with a calculator, just like anybody else. But I didn't have math. And the other thing you need to know about my father, he had a bizarre sense of humor, and he was very proud, but he was very easily frustrated. Definitely didn't like to deal with the things that come along owning a house in a country, and if it wasn't about to go wrong, he was worried that it absolutely was. So I believe that God, nature, the powers that be, call it what you will or won't, saw fit to give this man who is easily irritated a hyperactive child with an overactive imagination. More. Or should I say more? Sorry about that. And so I came to believe that as I saw these colors and harmony and energy and light and felt this throughout the world, that my father was the answer, that he had the math equations, I did not. My father did not understand a damn word that was coming out of my mouth, ever. And if you ever want to see a look of humor, look on the face of a scientist whose whole world is grounded in applied physics and who sees things in some beautiful harmony, a beautiful matrix of quantum physics. And a tree is just an equation. It is what it is. It's nothing more or nothing less. As his 8-year-old son tries to describe to him this sense of a web of energy and seeing colors and lights. Ladies and gentlemen, I was 8 years old in a time before the internet, in a time when you could grow up in a country and lead a relatively sheltered life. 8 years old when I got my first talk about drugs. This is not the first I'm here to talk about, but this was many, 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 many years before I got anything resembling a sex speech. Somehow he just didn't seem worried about that. So through his stress, through his inability to deal and his inability to just kind of escape these stressful things that keep popping up in his life, he had the 8 acres behind our house, something he was very proud of. So it became this mythical thing that he would go on this spring journey, whether it be 45 minutes or 4 hours, he would emerge his normal self, his man of humor, somebody that you could talk to. And I could even disturb him sometimes on the porch as he would sit there alone and contemplate life and be relaxed after a stressful day and smoke a cigarette. And here comes his son with some new wild theory that he's not going to understand. And I would sit down and I would say, "Dad, I was thinking." And he would go, "Yes." And I would talk to him about something bizarre, like the unified possibility of a cell in our thumb and how it connects to the universe and something odd that he could never quite understand, and hoping for some validation. And in the end, I would say, so is it possible? And him being relaxed and having a couple pops and having his bizarre sense of humor would simply look at me, finish his cigarette, grab his beer, stand up, and simply say yes. And that's how he would leave me alone on the porch, trying to give me some inkling, some sense of the stress and the frustration that I had given him my entire life. Because when he wasn't saying that, and when I did phrase my question appropriately and say, I'm looking for the solution to this, he would simply look at me and go, x to the power of 9 minus 5 equals 42, there you go, and walk away. Searching for answers. Now, the other thing you need to know before I went on this little mythical walk with my father is that my mother could be kind of emotional. It's nothing more than typically dealing with kids that are about 15 or 16 and the trouble they get in. And I don't know exactly what I did to push her over the edge that spring day, but it seemed like she had actually been crying for days. I don't know why. My father hated the stress of that, and being cooped up indoors for many, many months, he finally stood up and he said, son, let's go for a walk. And I knew this was the walk. And I knew he was doing it for 3 reasons. 1, he really just wanted to have a bonding moment alone with his son. 2, he wanted somebody with him to make sure that he came back. And 3, there was no way in heck he was leaving me alone with my mother for any length of time. We were at each other's throats. So we went on this walk, and you know, it was everything I thought it was supposed to be. Through the 14, 15 years of him sneaking out the door, making sure I wasn't with him, and he could go on these walks alone, it was a beautiful spring day. It was that perfect 60, 65 degrees where you started off in layers and just kind of shed your clothes on the trees as you walked, and we walked together. We walked apart. We walked side by side, and it was beautiful. And I don't know if it was 45 minutes or 4 hours, but I was walking at some certain point, and he was standing up there, of course, smoking a cigarette and using the 8 acres as his personal ashtray. It's okay. It's all grown over with weeds by now. It doesn't matter. And there was this moment where the light was shining through the trees, and it started out as nothing, but as it hit the trees, I could see the green. I could see the vibrating colors. I could see the energy coming through, and it mixed with the pollen, and it mixed with the dust, and little butterflies were flying through it. And the only thing I could say as I walked through this little beam of light was it was like a cartoon, where that guy looks up into the beam of light and has that eureka type moment. Because for a moment, I understood things on a new kind of level. And I came out, biblically speaking, in tongues. This really did happen. I know it's unbelievable. But I felt, at least I felt, that I was speaking in a moment of profound clarity, that finally whoever was around me could feel and understand exactly what I was going through that point in time. And with this profound clarity, I spoke to my father of colors, of energy, of vibrating harmonies of color and emotion, and why we came to be in this field, and even perhaps why I had gotten in this fight with my mother, so the 2 of us could be in this field at this exact point in time. And when I looked up, my father was not smoking a cigarette. And it was the first time he looked at me with a realization, and he had this delightfully bewildered eureka type look in his eyes as he put his arm around me and said, son, you've finally done it. And I said, yes. And he said, you've proven it. I said, what? He goes, what you have finally proven is that sometimes the apple falls very far from the tree. Much more to this story. I wish I could embellish, but I actually think my time is up. I appreciate you guys for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the night.
That was great. Thank you, Jonathan.